Out on the isolated prairie, the cowboys of the cattle drive era developed an art form of oral storytelling culture all their own: cowboy poetry. It grew out of the lived experience of working cowboys in the American West, where around campfires and bunkhouses, cowhands recited verses to pass the time, to entertain one another, and make sense of the dangers, humor, and loneliness of life on the range. Drawing on European ballad traditions, rhyming folk tales, West African-derived rhythmic storytelling, call-and-response patterns, improvisation, and work songs that were used to pace labor and build group cohesion. This unique brand of working man's poetry blended plain-spoken language with sharp observation and dry wit. And over time, though very rarely written down, it became a way of preserving Western culture and values like self-reliance, respect for the land, camaraderie, and endurance. Once considered informal and rough, cowboy poetry eventually gained recognition as a distinct literary tradition which continues today through live performances, festivals, gatherings, and published collections, all in effort of keeping the poetic voices of the working West alive with poems like The Strawberry Roan by Curly Fletcher. I was layin' round town just spending my time, out of a job and not making a dime, when up steps a feller and he says, I suppose that you're a bronc rider by the looks of your clothes. It's Horses on Film. Howdy, y'all. Welcome to episode 16 of Horses on Film. This is the podcast dedicated to determining the top 100 Westerns of all time. We're using as our guide IndieWire's list that they published in 2024. And from there, we're going to add, subtract, and kind of come up with a new list, a new order of things. And hopefully it's one we can be proud of. And, you know, of course, in order to do that, I'm going to need my co-hosts. So Dave, Scott, there they are. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Howdy. How are things?
Oh, it's good. We're 16% here.
You said 16. I was like, oh, you can go get your driver's license or GDL now, I guess. But,
yeah. It's moving along. It's happening. I can't believe it. It's wild.
Yeah. It's we've almost watched 1 in 5 of the movies on this list, or reviewed, I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah, and I've I just think about like all the things I'm watching adjacent to each movie too, and I have a feeling that at the end of the year, my letterbox is going to be well over a movie a day, which it often is anyway. But
good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. And Dave, last episode you made a suggestion to watch some Hopalong Cassidy's.
Yes,
and I did. I watched 2 of them.
Nice. They're short. They're an hour long. It's easy to do.
Yeah, they're great, and it was not what I was expecting at all. I was expecting them to be a lot fluffier, a lot jauntier. They have their their humor and stuff, but but I found them kind of like pretty intense and serious and exciting. They were great.
It got a little fluffier later, like when it started on film and then went to television and radio. As opposed to starting on radio and then moving into the screen. And by the time it gets to the radio, it's a little fluffier. It's still perfectly listenable to an adult, but that was one of the things. William Boyd always wanted Hopalong to be family friendly. It was a must. He literally mortgaged his entire universe to buy the rights to Hopalong Cassidy so that he could actually ensure that anything that came out and anything that was licensed by him was family friendly and not dangerous to kids or putting on a bad influence to kids. Yet there's all sorts of gunfights and stuff, so that says something about
I watched Trail Dust, Trail Dust and Sunset Trail, and then I watched a big portion of one. It was something Arizona, but I haven't made it all the way through. But I thought they were great, and maybe we're never going to see the gritty reboot if he still has
if his family owns the rights. But
yeah, I don't know what he died in I think 1972, so it's been a while. But
all right. Yeah, thanks for kind of sending me down that trail because I was enjoying it.
For those listening and watching, YouTube, at least half of the films are on there, probably more if you hunt deep enough.
Yeah, YouTube and Tubi. I found both of those on Tubi too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I like how Mubi and Tubi are actually like they're a little bit of a punchline, but the more and more we do this, the more and more they're the ones we're going to for this stuff. So
I know they're gonna officially sponsor us at some point.
You should. Hint. Hint.
Yeah. All right. Well, last week we watched The Settlers from 2023. It did pretty well. It got a 13 out of 15, or it sits in 13th place out of 15. It got a 13.5 out of 20, which is an average rating of 3.375. So I think, it's only kind of in the low end because all our marks have been pretty high. So it's in a really good position, and I enjoyed it. It was a little bit, rougher, especially in content, but an interesting, beautiful film.
It's funny because it is such a stark contrast to this film. I'm watching this being really this is so different from last week. Mm-hmm. And so it I actually found it almost jarring in a weird way, because after that I was horrored a little bit, being like, okay, what am I in for now, right? Mm-hmm. What is Cameron going to do to me this week?
There's like skeletal remains right in the title screen. The poster. Okay, well let's jump into it. We're doing Dead Man. Let's get into our feature presentation. All
right, so we'll put this up and go over here and do some mood music and learn about Dead Man. Mm-hmm. It is preferable not to travel with a dead man. On the run after committing murder, an accountant encounters a strange Native American man who prepares him for his journey into the spiritual world.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right.
Hit the button again.
No worries. Push. Dead Man from 1995, written and directed by Jim Jarmusch. He did, of course, Stranger Than Paradise, Down by Law, Coffee and Cigarettes, Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai, Patterson, which is one of my favorite movies, and recently Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, which I haven't seen yet. It was inspired by Rudy Wurlitzer's unproduced screenplay Zebulon, which was later published as a novel called The Drop Edge of Yonder, as well as a lot of Native American writing and the poetry of William Blake. Dead Man stars Johnny Depp as Blake, also Gary Farmer, Billy Bob Thornton, Iggy Pop, Crispin Glover, John Hurt, Michael Wincott, Lance Hendrickson, Gabriel Byrne, Millie Avital, Michelle Thrush, Alfred Molina, and Robert Mitchum in his last performance. It was shot by Robbie Mueller on monochrome black and white in parts of Arizona, Nevada, California, Oregon, and in the Columbia River Gorge in Washington State from October 10th to mid-November 1994. The music was often improvised electric guitar by Neil Young. It premiered at the 1995 Cannes Film Festival, and it received a small release to mixed reviews, but slowly gained a cult classic status over time, including film critic Jonathan Rosenbaum, who thought it was one of the best films of 1995, and even wrote a book about it called Dead Man, where he called it a masterpiece of contemporary American cinema. So here to talk about it is a familiar face, screenwriter, filmmaker, Fraggle Rock creature shopper, Brandon Nelson, third timer, friend of the pod.
Yeah, I know. Thank you so much for having me back. I always love coming here and chatting Westerns with you guys. So happy to have a trilogy going here.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we got the band back together here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does feel good, like especially because it was the first episode as well. So it's fantastic having you back, mate. And I didn't realize you were on this one because Cam puts it together, and all of a sudden the screen pops up. I'm like, oh hey, here we go.
Yeah. Anytime you guys want me back, I'm really thrilled to be here. So
yeah, Scott was like, oh, it's a real episode. Okay. All right, cool. So Brandon, had you seen this before? We'll start with you.
Yeah, I had seen it quite a long time ago, so I didn't remember a lot of details. And this one's a little different for me because the first 2 episodes I was on, I deeply loved both movies. And this is I'm going to be kind of in the Dave role a little bit here, where I'm a little bit of a skeptic of this. And I thought maybe I would get more out of it rewatching. I'm still a bit of a skeptic about this movie, but I want to hear you guys' thoughts.
Okay.
I think it has a lot of ideas and concepts about the West, and it sets out this beautiful banquet table of ideas, but it doesn't let me eat. I can like smell it. It looks pretty. It looks nice. It's all set up, and then I can't sit down and have a meal, and that's the issue I have with this one. But
all right. Dave, had you seen it before? Or?
I hadn't, and I love me some Johnny Depp, so I'm actually a little surprised that I hadn't seen this one before, because I told someone, even when it's not Tim Burton, Johnny Depp finds a weird movie.
Oh yeah.
So it's
even like,
and I like weird movies. I like weird Johnny Depp movies, so I was kind of surprised that I hadn't seen this one before.
The Pirates movie, he's the weird part of it. So like he just that I think it's hard to separate him from the strange.
Mm-hmm.
He loves a silly hat.
Yeah, he loves a hat, and he loves, like, he's got that Benny and June haircut in this. He loves. And actually, him and the director were friends, but I guess they really butted heads on this one, and they really had a hard time on set. Jarmusch found out later that Johnny Depp was reading a biography of Marlon Brando, and the whole point of the book was the director's your enemy, and you got to have this adversarial position against the director. And so he was just like role playing as Brando.
Oh God!
That's worked out for 0 people, not even Brando.
Yeah.
So it's like
Jarmusch said he would burn the book if he ever found it. So
it's funny because you went through the list of his movies, and I've only ever seen one of them. We Bury the Dead. Was the first time I became aware of him. Coffee and Cigarettes, but I didn't realize it was him. But I've seen Ghost Dog because after Last King of Scotland, I went down a Forrest Whitaker rabbit hole, and I came up with that. I was like, oh, I like that. It's different and fun, and you can feel it in this. It feels like it challenges you to like it in a weird way. There was a movie a couple years ago called like Hundreds of Beavers.
Yeah.
Because Dave and I went back and forth on that one, and that's
something.
That is something.
It's Looney Tunes cinema for sure.
Yeah, we Brittany my partner could only get halfway through that, and so I'm watching this, being like, I think this is the moment Brittany would have walked out of the room, right? Like, and it's just like I actually liked it, so it's. Not my usual fare, but
he's definitely a independent filmmaker. He's definitely an artist. He does things his own way. And I said earlier, one of my favorites of his is Patterson, and Patterson is a lot more structured. It feels a lot more like it's slow and it's poetry, and it's kind of a comfort movie for us. Well, one night it was like Christmas Day Eve, and our carbon monoxide alarms went off, and we had to call the fire department, and it was in the middle of COVID, and it was really stressful, and the dog was shaking and everyone was upset, and we all finally got back in the house and figured out it was a false alarm, and we were safe to sleep there, but everyone was kind of on edge, so we all kind of crawled in the same bed and put on Patterson, and it just kind of like so quiet and slow and pretty, and we were just like, okay. And then we eventually all fell back asleep. So I have a soft spot in my heart for that one because it kind of is calm. And, this one kind of has a similar, like it, even in shootout scenes, it's kind of paced, somebody shoots and they miss and the other person looks at them and then they shoot back and they hit them, like it was never really too frantic or
I will say this, having seen Ghost Dog as well, Jim Jarmusch can shooting very well. He's oddly, like just he's content to let the camera kind of stand back and just like not get too flashy with it, and it makes it feel kind of real and visceral at times.
I was between that, the choices of shots, what I found myself, because I hadn't looked up, a lot of times when I go into these films, maybe halfway through, if I'm like, I want to know more. Again, with the Settlers, that the one that on the Wikipedia page where they talked about all the different countries, that caught me as like, oh wow, crazy. This one, I think it was like the 7th person I recognized. It was the Gabriel Byrne's breaking into that room, and I was like, hey, that's Gabriel Byrne's. And then it was Crispin Glover on the train. Like, it just, every time I was like, whatever, Alfred Molina. And I was just like, what? It just kind of felt like, again, like Coffee and Cigarettes, where it's just like this, like, I haven't seen it. I know what it is.
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of just like an endless stream. Yeah, it's an endless stream of cameos and vignettes, and that's sort of a little how this works too. Now, there's a lot of interpretations of it, and I have a very surface level. Like I don't think too deep into it. I just kind of have like a surface level take on it, and for me, it's simply, it's Greek. That train ride at the beginning, in my mind, Johnny Depp is dead before, or the William Blake character is dead before this movie even starts, and that train is the boat on the river Styx into the underworld, and
with Crispin Glover being like the fairy, like Charon.
Yeah, he's the fairy, and he's there to tell him that where you're going is hell, but you have a chance to kind of work it. And then when he's shot, he's not killed because he's dead kind of already. And I mean, it's literally called Dead Man. Like, I don't look at it now. There are deeper dives into it where people think there's I mean, I think there's a lot of layers to it, and Jarmusch even said that he had the opportunity. He had this script for a long time, so he was able to kind of keep going back and layering it. So I think there are deeper interpretations where, he's atoning for the sins of his life, and they have more specific details that maybe he killed his parents or his fiance and his baby, and all these things that happened in his life, and now he has to kind of atone for them in this moment. But to me, it's just a man who in his life he died. He takes that train ride to purgatory or the kind of gates of hell, and while he's there, he's got to kind of confront all these challenges and paths, and then he has a kind of a spirit guide that helps him to carry on.
I'm wondering, because then when you look at Robert Mitchum's character, it could be almost like, I'm actually digging this line. He could almost be like St. Peter's. Hey, I was supposed to go here, and they're like, oh, no, you're not. You missed your mark. The 3 bounty hunters, Lance Hendrickson, I can't remember his name. He's in The Crow and everything.
Michael Wincott.
Yeah, Wincott.
Yeah, Wincott. Thank you. That could be Cerberus sent to hunt him down like the dog. Like, it's
I haven't thought of that.
The more you said it, the more I'm like, this is clicking in a way I actually like. Maybe that's like, you have Alfred Molina show up as a priest, and so there's an arc of redemption. Also, a priest in hell makes sense to me. Yeah. If you've ever opened a newspaper, that should make sense to you too. But like it's just like,
well, and the tobacco, every single person is asking everybody for tobacco, and the Native American backstory on tobacco is that, you know, you need it to help your spirit pass on to the next realm. And it's very close and spiritual. And so everyone's kind of trying to get tobacco and asking, do you have any extra? Well, of course you don't have any extra, but do you have any? And you know, that they're trying to earn money in these bounties or whatever they're trying to do to have enough money to get some tobacco so that they can eventually kind of pass on to the next realm. And so there, you know, there's kind of some, I mean, like I said, it's not too surface level, but it's one interpretation. And I never said when I first saw this, I saw this in high school. So, you know, 95, it would have been fairly new. So it was probably when it first came on home video. I know I didn't see it in the theater. And I had seen a couple other, you know, maybe similar kind of art house movies at the time. But for some reason, this one really clicked with me to the point where, you know, I watched it again and again and again. I really enjoyed it. And then 10 years later, I wrote a script and made a short film. And then it's been 15 years since that. And then I watched this again. And I went, oh, I kind of ripped this off a lot in the idea. You know, I had a short film where somebody was shot and didn't know they were dead. And then at the end, they get in the river, and the river kind of floated them to the next.
Was Haley Joel Osment in it?
No.
Now, my only thing that disputes that theory, and I love this theory, is that if he's already dead and going to hell, why is he leaving Cleveland? He was already there.
Yeah.
Cleveland rocks, yo.
Solid. Yeah. Well, there was even a line there. Well, there's a few good shots at Cleveland. Where'd you get that suit, Cleveland? Yeah. No, definitely there. And that Mitchum character, you know, wants to keep him there. You know, he wants him to be taken to hell or wants to prevent him from moving on to the next spiritual realm. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think there's some thought to that.
The metaphor feels a little messy at times, though, like because he's rejected by Mitchum, and it's like, so he's coming. I see it the same way you do, Cameron, and like, you know, he's drifting to hell on this train, and so he's starting out in like an industrialized, capitalistic kind of means of conveyance to hell. And he's going to a town called Machine, and it's a metalworks, like it's all very industrial. But he's rejected from that place by kind of Satan, like Robert Mitchum. If we're thinking of it that way, because they do mention hell, Crispin Glover mentions that, and so they are inviting that interpretation. But so he's rejected, then he's led into this outlaw life of kind of violence and being pursued by just like a lover's quarrel, like this with Gabriel Byrne and I forget the actress's name, but so to me, it's like, couldn't it be something a little more directly tied with the metalworks, his job, his place as a gainfully employed, you know, someone in capitalistic society? It feels a little muddled there. I don't.
Yeah, you're right. I wonder if like, you kind of got the impression that, you know, people show up every day saying, "Oh, I was promised a job," and there is no job. You know,
here's the letter this time.
Yeah, and I'm sure they all kind of have this letter, but in like in you know, maybe it's like oh, I joined up with this club, and this club promised this kind of afterlife, and so I'm here to cash in on that. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. Like, whatever you're told out there about how this works, it's, you know, we have our own systems in place. The people that do work here are working off sins of another kind or whatever, you know.
So in Dante's Inferno, he meets Virgil outside, and if Crispin Glover isn't the train man, Charon. By the way, I love this stuff. And so if he had followed through with him, and each of the little like kind of vignettes is the word I'm going to use, could have been a different circle, because greed, lust, avarice, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's Alfred Molina, like because throughout Dante's Divine Comedy, they're always hitting up and finding famous characters throughout history who are also in the different layers, right? It's starting to make a lot more sense the more I think about it, and I'm like, it might actually impact my score, and I actually did not expect that.
You might have to watch it again and again and again. That was sort of kind of what captured me as a high school student, kind of having just gone through all this stuff in school.
We all go through a phase.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of it connected with me at that level. And you talk about Machine reminded me a lot of Metropolis. In that wide shot with the smokestack going, and when he got into the thing, and there just seemed to be big steam engines that did nothing, and a bunch of like oily, greasy crews that were just twisting knobs.
Tim Burton's Gotham as well, where it was just like aesthetic, not function.
Yeah, or Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times. Yeah, just any parody of like post-industrialism, capitalism kind of,
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Chaplin because I really felt that from Johnny Depp throughout this whole thing. He was really channeling, Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, and especially the fall out the window. All that, and then there's a little bit of violence and gore and heads getting crushed and people getting throats slit, and in black and white it kind of hits a little different.
Yeah, it didn't seem, maybe because it was in black and white, it didn't seem as gory. And it could just be because it's black and white, so it's not as, or it could just be that it wasn't splatter film gore.
Well, the shots were very hit, a little bit of blood. Yeah, Hendrickson eating the arm. Like, there's not really a lot in there, at least not that I would have guessed.
And I don't know, crushing that skull.
And like,
that was a solid bit of makeup effects work there,
and practical, very practical and
very
real.
practical. You could tell, it felt like when the like one of those like foam balls that they just filled with some blood, and when you step on it, just
you see brain come out of the forehead and stuff, and blood out of the nose. It's
it does come out of nowhere in a weird way.
It does,
yeah.
There was a line. What did you guys think of the cinematography? I thought it was beautiful, and the landscapes was beautiful. And a lot of the reason why he shot black and white and why he picked some of these landscapes is he wanted them to be very unfamiliar and strange and spooky. And I guess the DOP, they would find some place with some beautiful vista, and Mueller would say, "No, it looks like a calendar." And then he would turn around the other way and go, "Oh, that tree's ugly. Let's shoot at that." And so there was a lot of that kind of like, and I think that kind of holds with the purgatory feeling of it too. Where it's like, it's not heaven, it's not hell. It's just something weird that you don't recognize. And is, there's just kind of this strangeness to it. And
one of my favorite scenes in the whole thing was Nobody's origin story. As they're going through that birchwood that you have as your background, because you don't see birch all that frequently on film.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, especially black and white. Yeah,
exactly. It was just haunting. It felt so ethereal. It was amazing.
I just like the initial. One of the initial things is him helping Mila Atoll. When he gets thrown out of the saloon there by the guy. So, and it's really early on. He's doing something. You start with him being all like fish out of water. And then you get, hey, I'm going to do a good deed. And that good deed gets taken from him right away. And then you get Nobody, who is a fantastic character, actually. Every time I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this guy. And then he'd do something. I was like, that's fine.
He's incredible. I think he's the best part of the movie.
Also, we haven't talked about the William Blake at all. Like, of all the things you could have settled on, all the poets you could have settled on, William Blake, like, that caught me I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then when he was so my partner does indigenous service consultant, and she's talked about more than once that his story is very much what used to happen. Usually in Europe, Germans were big on bringing First Nations back. And so hearing him talk about it, and then almost felt like if you were looking at it from a Eastern or a European standpoint, oh, we're taking you from the hell that is the new world. And we're going to civilize you. And the minute I started to become civilized, they went, you're still not like us at all, and sent you back, kind of thing, right? Like, it's damned if you do, in a weird way. And it's such a interesting take. And then stealing the glasses and be like, maybe you'll see better without them was like,
well, and as a dead man, you don't need them, right? Dead
you
man.
don't need them. And his shot got better, his confidence got better. Like, he just became better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody is kind of taking Johnny Depp into indigenous cultural tradition the same way that he was taken out into European cultural tradition. So they're kind of like two dead men passing each other in the night kind of thing. But
yeah, very similar paths in an opposite way. And Jarmusch did say that researching this, he was reading a lot of Native American literature and really steeping himself in the culture and really like getting involved. But then he kind of just needed a palate cleanser. He was so involved in it, and it was all in his head. And so he just grabbed some William Blake and started reading the William Blake to cleanse his palate. And he was like, oh my God, this all sounds indigenous, just in the way he, kind of his phrasing and the poetry still kind of felt connected in enough of a way that what he said was he felt like William Blake was trying to get into his movie. And he's like, well, this guy wants to be in the movie, I'm going to put him in the movie, kind of thing, which I honestly believe he believes,
Oh yeah,
like you think you are, and that's all we need.
And Gary Farmer's incredible as nobody, and he gets to come back in Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai. That character does come back in a little cameo.
I want to rewatch it now. I don't remember his.
I haven't seen it since film school, but I did. It sounded familiar when I saw that in the stats, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's right. But at one point, Jarmusch was talking to Gary Farmer, and he said, oh yeah, I haven't put you in anything else since then. I should bring you back. I just did a movie and I didn't use you. And Farmer was like, yeah, that's kind of effed up. Like,
yeah,
was I
good in Dead Man? I think I was.
Yeah. But he's an interesting dude. I said on the last episode, I worked with him on a show, and he was elusive, to say the least. And
Drake for that. Drake for Cam worked with the guy.
I kind of also, I love our little happy accidents that we get. And when this one came up, I thought, I'm going to talk about poetry and how, cowboys had their own kind of poetry and stuff. And then I saw an interview with Jarmusch where he was talking about the casting of Gary Farmer and the hiring of Neil Young. And they were both very similar stories where he says, hey, I've got this script and we're still we want to make this movie. And both of them kind of went, I don't read scripts. Neil Young said, it doesn't make sense to me. Gary Farmer said, I don't read scripts. Just come to my house, which is like a 5-hour drive outside of Toronto, in the woods, just come to my house and we'll talk about the movie and I'll decide if I want to do it. And so even in this creation of this movie, there was still this kind of oral storytelling thing where he had to like meet with Neil Young and say, well, this is what it's about, and this is the feel, and this is the story, and these are the characters. And he couldn't just write it down and FedEx it to him or email him, and Farmer too. He spent the night at his house, and then they got up in the morning and he was like, yeah, I'm going to do your movie, just because the sheer fact that he made the effort to come out to him,
It says a lot.
With Neil Young, it's almost another layer of that oral storytelling in that he improvised most of the music.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you take that from words to music, he's telling a story over the story, more so than your average composer. Your average composer will go, okay, cool, and come up with something brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But he actually had waited, watched the movie, the cut of the movie, and ran with it.
Yeah, and very strange. And I think it's a I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good way to kind of, if you know that you want this kind of minimalist score where it's just kind of random guitar, and I think he kind of had that vision where Jarmusch said he doesn't like Eric Clapton at all, but he liked that Eric Clapton did that for somebody, and he thought, oh, well, if Neil Young does that, it might be good, you know, and Neil Young at one point had the idea, it was right after Kurt Cobain had passed away, and he said, oh, why don't I get the other two guys from Nirvana to come and do it with me? But then the next day he's like, no, I like that it's minimal, it's just me. And they just set up in the studio, watched the movie, and he just kind of played along with it, even at the detriment of like over the dialogue at times, you know. But it works. I think it's not the type of thing that I would throw on in the car on a road trip, but it works in the context of the movie.
Apparently they did release the soundtrack, so you could throw it on in the car.
I bet.
It also like it works with the story of the movie, as in like how this movie was made. It feels just like I could just imagine this guy just walking down a studio lot being like, you and you're in my movie, you're gonna play these guys, and you and you. Mm-hmm. Also, that guy there, he's just gonna play guitar while he watches it. Like it's just like and it's, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
Like Billy Bob and Iggy Pop and all these guys, they're just like, like I think he's connected. He has all these friends, and everybody wants to work with them. And it
kind of feels like Adam Sandler does now with all his like on Netflix, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Or Wes Anderson, you know, where they just, you know, they have their group of players, and they just pepper them in to whatever works.
Only Wes Anderson had the same kind of talent this guy has.
I'm a Wes Anderson guy.
Royal Tenenbaums, that's where it peaked out. So,
which one?
Royal Tenenbaums, that's where it peaked.
That's my favorite one.
I love Rushmore.
Yeah, Rushmore, Bottle Rocket, Tenenbaums is like
Bottle Rocket's good.
Out of the gate.
Life Aquatic, I'm like mixed on. I love the David Bowie score. I love the covers. Big fan of that. Bill Murray's always awesome. The rest of it I could probably leave. So
that was
that movie.
Famously, I don't watch movies set on boats. I'm so terrified of large bodies of water that sometimes in movies on boats I get really anxious, and so I've never seen Titanic.
I was going to say Titanic would have wrecked you.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. And it took me a very long time to see Jaws, and I only saw Jaws in like COVID. And now I watch it every year. It's one of my favorites.
I'm changing the Happiness Patrol schedule. We're now doing Murder on the Nile.
Oh yeah, no, oh God. But
I was like, I went differently. I was like, we're on a film podcast, and the guy who hosts it and put it together hasn't seen Jaws. I
remember when we finally saw Jaws. Yeah, that was a big moment. It was,
now I watch it every 4th of July, and I've seen all the sequels. And
crying on your corner, crying on your shoulder, being like, "Did you see what they did to that poor shark?" So
well, you know, and anyway, when I did watch Life Aquatic when it came out, and I was sweating bullets, and I just kept telling myself, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake, you know. And luckily it's just fake enough looking. It's basically a cartoon.
Have you watched The Hunt for Red October?
No, I have not.
Does a submarine count as a boat?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It's worth kind of boat. Yeah.
It's
underwater.
Yeah.
I didn't mind when Johnny Depp got in the canoe in this.
I was literally just gonna ask that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and he got to float. You can see the shore. Like, you wouldn't get me on
there's a gunfight on the shore.
Yeah, you wouldn't get me on a cruise, but maybe a river cruise, because I can see the shore, you know. But
you watched Maverick with us.
I know, and more people died on the Sultana than the Titanic. And I'm literally writing a script about the Sultana, which was a riverboat. At the end of the Civil War, it went down to pick up all the Northern prisoners, and they were getting paid $5 a head for each prisoner that they brought back. And a boat that was supposed to hold, I think, maybe 300 people, they had 1,600 people on it.
Jeebus.
And people, it was just like sardines. And, you know, a lot of the guys had been in Andersonville and they weighed like 60, 70 pounds. But still, it was way too many people on this boat, and it exploded on the way back up north. It exploded and it killed thousands of people. It's the biggest nautical disaster in American history. And then at 50, 60 years later, a man who fought for the South confessed on his deathbed that he may have blown it up, that it wasn't a negligence thing. It was he didn't believe the war was over. He thought it was still going. But it was the exact same week that Lincoln was shot and that John Wilkes Booth was caught. So it was like page 6 in the newspaper. Nobody cared.
Or it's trying to reunite the war, I guess. Because
Booth and that, I could see that being.
Well, even still, as they were going south, every time they got to a town, they were saying, "Hey, the war's over. We're going to get prisoners." And that was the first people had heard that the war was over. So it was, anyway, that's
Bing was the only way to get news, and nobody uses Bing.
Yeah.
So.
it was
Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
Internet Exploder.
Alta Vista. It was Alta Vista.
Ask Jeeves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But should we get into some counts? Are we?
Yeah, let's do
that. Yeah, why not? We've already diverted. Like,
we're into.
I was thinking about it while we're doing this. This film is, you kind of just have to watch it. Like, you just like
us talking about it is not going to do any justice to this film at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
no,
anyway, hearing 2, 3 people, 4 people talk about a film doesn't do it justice ever.
No,
but in this case, it's one of those, like you said, cinematography, the choices, the actors, like I said, I don't know, like Alfred Molina feels like a cameo, but like Lance Henriksen doesn't. He's got.
It's really only those 3 killers that, I mean, the only actors who were on set for more than a day would have been Johnny Depp and Gary Farmer, and then those 3 killers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else was like a one-day cameo, I feel like.
It's such a weird, like, if you told me he set up the camera and just let like random people come and just like do their thing and wear whatever they wanted, as long as it's period appropriate, I would believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Gabriel Byrne was literally in one shot. Like one setup, and I would say Crispin Glover maybe in 2 setups, you know, and like it was pretty efficient in that sense, and it does kind of have that Jarmusch kind of feel of just kind of like vignette-y little, like sections of this could play as their own short film, you know. I also love that it felt very Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
You know,
especially some of the indigenous tribes that you don't see on film as often. Like,
right. It's certainly a look that we're used to growing up with kind of TV from that area and Vancouver, you know, like it feels very with the totem poles and the indigenous tribes from the West Coast. It feels familiar to us, but we certainly not on this list. We don't see a lot of that kind of look, and I really appreciated it. It was really cool to see that, you know, the thick forest. But let's do a count. Let's do a horse count. What do we think? So it's obviously no horses, some horses, lots of horses, and all the horses. Where do you think we fit? Let's start with Brandon.
I think I will say some horses. There weren't very many, but at least one of them was an important plot point. It was
the Pinto,
the way that they were tracking William Blake.
Yeah.
The horse belonged to Gabriel Byrne. So I'll say some horses.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. Dave, what do you think?
I had it on the low end of some horses as well. Even though the Pinto was a plot point, I think it was not one that was explored. It just kind of like, yep, there's a motivation, go.
It is. It does get talked about. Really, white socks, brown on the top, brown on the side. Yep.
Yeah, there's a, you know, if you're trying to work that metaphor, you know, I don't know where it would fit into a purgatory metaphor, but the attachment that Mitchum's character had to that pony. He was almost more upset about the pony being gone than his, tracking down his son's murderer, So yeah, I kind of felt like, I feel like Some Horses is a fair, even in the town, because the town was pretty industrialized. There's the horse kind of taking a piss, and there's each of the bounty hunters had horses, but I don't even think the marshals had horses. Were they not on foot?
I don't think
They
they
were
had
only on foot. Yeah.
Yeah, I did enjoy their their tan line. Two
Even
bald
in black and white, it was very noticeable.
It was distinct. I wonder how great it looked on set. Okay, yeah. And then I think, ratings could be where we go over time here, but who wants to start with their rating? Let's go to Scott first. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm pointing at Dave because
he wants to know. Okay. He wants to know.
My horse count, by the way, is high no, because I don't want to agree with Dave and say low some.
Okay. Yeah, anything to be contrarian. I love it. Yeah.
I'm really interested to see it. Scott and I are always on opposite ends of the coin, so it's always.
I actually feel like we're going to be close on this one.
I think we are. I think we are
actually.
I spent most of this episode kind of us talking, hoping it would coalesce in my brain why I liked this film, because I did like this film. I'm still not sure what it is. I can't pinpoint what it is about this film. It's haunting. It's just that's. I think in my Letterboxd review, I think I used haunting 3 times, including saying, "Could I use haunting more?" Yes, but I'm not going to.
Right.
But everything, just from the music to the imagery, was all just so haunting that I had to give it 4.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 4.
It was. That's great. Yeah. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, actually. Oddly enough, I was going to give it a 4, but I can't agree with Dave, so I'm going to.
Yeah, that feels.
No. I was at a 3.5, and then you said the purgatory, and it just started to click. I was like, yes. The same thing as we talked about on the Settlers. A 4 to me is a film that I really enjoyed, but I don't see myself rushing back to watch it. With things like The Proposition and Unforgiven, I gave 4.5 5s, I'm pretty sure, because those movies, I'm happy. It's one of those, if I'm flipping through TV, would I stop and finish it? Yes, I would. Those, no doubt. Like, I'm sorry, I have to go pick up someone. They now have to wait because I have to finish the film. But like this one, a 4 says like, I'm not mad. I'm happy. I liked it. I would watch it again. If you went, hey, let's watch this film, I'd be like, yeah, let's do that. I wouldn't be like, can we watch something else? The allegories, the cameos. I just like, again, because I didn't do any research going into this. It just kept.
That's what we like.
Kept coming. That was the craziest thing. And in the 90s, you can see like Lance Henriksen was probably fairly established. Alfred Molina is like he's showing up at places, but I'm pretty sure about Dr. Octopus Doc Ock from Spider-Man's where most people really got their Alfred Molina. If you didn't,
he was pretty art house at this point. He was in the he was in the theater a lot, and then art house stuff.
Indiana Jones, he steals the idol from him in the first one. Like it's little things like that. Love Iggy Pop wherever he shows up. I love his music, but also just like he's such a embodiment of that like chaos. Johnny Depp is fantastic. You could see his like you said, Benny and June or What's Eating Gilbert Grape phase. No, everyone legitimately, I have no issues with this film except for the fact that I think it would be a hard recommendation. Same as like all his other stuff where it's like Ghost Dog I've recommended and people are like, I don't get it. I was like, I don't know what not to get. Forrest Whitaker shooting people, it's cool. Like it's a good film. I liked it. But this is a 4 for me.
All right. We got a couple fours.
Brandon?
Brandon, you said you kind of struggled on this one.
I did. Before we started, I was kind of leaning towards like a 2.5.
Okay.
He is me.
I'm gonna go 3 because the aesthetic pleasures of the movie are so strong. It's just so beautifully shot. I love the Neil Young score. I love the supporting cast. I don't love Johnny Depp's performance. I he's kind of just there a little bit. I don't sense a lot of inner life with the character, even though he's a dead man, so maybe that's on purpose. But it's sort of this will sound weird, but every once in a while, like someone like Chanel number 5 or something some brand will they'll spend a bunch of money and they'll make like a 20-minute ad with like a big actor and a real cinematographer and a real director, and everyone kind of poses in front of the camera and it looks beautiful, but there's nothing really there. It's an ad. Yeah, this obviously isn't an ad, it's not like that, but Johnny Depp's performance and some of the technical aspects of the movie feel that way to me, where it's pretty, it's beautiful. I don't really sense a lot going on with Depp inside. And I think he was maybe thinking a little too much about the on-set dynamics. And now that you've brought that to our attention, than he was building a character. But I love Gary Farmer. I love, Michael Wincott, Lance Henriksen, always love character actors like that. So, so I'm going to go 3. The metaphor is strong enough. The mythological components, they're messy. They don't quite add up, but they're interesting. I like them. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting is a great word. Haunting is a great word. Tough recommendation is absolutely true. Like it, especially for anyone that's like, oh, I love a Western, you might not say, oh, well, watch Dead Man and it'll be the most, on the nose Western you've ever seen. No, it is sort of a recommendation for people who are like, oh, I don't like Westerns, I prefer this type of movie or that type of, like, you could get the art house crowd to go to a Western if it's this. You could get the low budget horror crowd would probably kind of be all right with this.
Kind of the same way if someone told you, you're like, hey, I really like quality cinema, you wouldn't recommend them Wes Anderson. You just wouldn't. That's not the way to go. So it's like especially if you want to keep them as a friend. So it's
yeah. Well, no, that's
Wes Anderson is the John Wayne of filmmakers.
Oh no. Well, he's a unique and consistent voice. I'll give you that. And
consistent is a good word.
Jarmusch is the same way. You're going to a Jarmusch movie, that's what you're getting. And you kind of feel like, obviously sometimes he has bigger budgets. This at the time was the biggest budget he had worked with. I think it was $9 million. And he was a little frustrated by the idea of like, I think he's the type of guy that wants to just set up a tripod in a booth of a scuzzy bar and have 2 people talk back and forth to each other.
It's really,
like the idea of
want the cigarette and coffee.
Yeah. Like I think, even Patterson, he'd rather just shoot in a bar or shoot in a bus, and he'd, the idea of like, you can't see telephone poles, you can't see airplane streaks in the sky. I think he was a little frustrated by that. But since then, he's done some other genre work, which, obviously I think from this, he learned that you could dive into a genre and really kind of explore something. I think if this came out like this year or a few years ago, I might kind of think it's a little on the pretentious side or weird with the capitals in the wrong spots. But my little 1995 heart goes out to it because there were movies like this in 87 to 96, kind of it was right in that pocket before Fargo, Reservoir Dogs was over, but like Fargo, Pulp Fiction, like a lot of those like indie movies kind of changed, Well, I mean, I remember Fargo being in the Oscar conversation and Hollywood being a little bit off put by it. That, like, you know, these Coen brothers have come along and are trying to, you know, do it their own way, kind of thing. And I think independent cinema has always been, I mean, we saw it with Fuller and 40 Guns, you know, it's always been in the conversation. But this was kind of, you know, right in that pocket of indie film, just became a little bit more accessible. There was this real New York scene, and you know, in 95, 96, when I saw it probably on video, you know, again, I talk about the movies you see when you're 5, when you're 15, when you're 25. They hit a little different. And so this one, I wish I still had the receipt or could remember the late fees I paid on it. Because I think I rented it from Rogers. It wasn't even Blockbuster. It was Rogers Video. And I remember taking it back and trying to negotiate because I owed triple digits in late fees.
I could buy this movie like 7 times for this.
I know. Yeah. And I believe they actually just said, you own it now, just keep it. Like, so the video that I had was the Rogers Video version. And then I eventually replaced it with a DVD. And, but I had literally probably hadn't seen it since maybe 2004, 2005. So it's been a while, but I'm at a 4. I really do think, you know, it would never crack my top 50. I don't think it's a top 10 Western in the sense of this list, but I wouldn't want a list where interesting movies like this weren't on it. So I was really glad that it was on there. So
with 3 4s in it and a 3, it might be a top 10 Western on this, at least right now.
Yeah, at least for now. It's really,
it's funny,
well received.
I never brought it up, but I was like, in my head, I was like, is this a Western? Like back to, especially because with the town and all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? That's not the point of this film.
Yes.
It's weird West.
It's the old West on the edge of the universe, I guess.
Yeah.
But
it's an acid Western, is what it's classified as.
They call it an acid Western, or sometimes
psychedelic Western.
Yeah, that's
existential Western comes up every now and then.
Those are my favorite.
There was an interesting little Goldilocks and the Three Bears moment too, when they find Iggy Pop and his crew, Billy Bob, and Iggy Pop's reading Goldilocks, and there's kind of an interesting allegory between, like, okay, Johnny Depp's character is going to come into this and disrupt their little world, and then
Iggy Pop was kind of Goldilocks and one of the bears at the same time.
That's true. Yeah, he steals some beans because he just wants some beans, and there was a few things that you know, that's the only kind of like historical mistake they make. They refer to the teddy bear, you know, probably 50 years before the teddy bear existed, but yeah, there was a lot of kind of just random, interesting little things and moments. I loved Michelle Thrush. I thought she was incredible.
That Gary Farmer was.
Yeah, she's the girlfriend, and then the fact that she, you know, she had this whole, like, just tore a strip off of them in a language that they were not going to subtitle for us because they want you to be as confused as everybody else, and I guess that whatever she says is hilarious to those that speak that language, because they got to really, like, get into it in another language without affecting the rating.
The best part of that moment is when he's just like, whatever, women, and just kind of like walks off. Like it was just like
he's like, and I think Nobody is a pretty iconic character that I'd love to. I hope he does come back in something. Just kind of keep bringing him back, because he sort of exists in a timeless sort of existential world anyway. So he could show up in any movie.
I would pay real money to have him and another sidekick, Peabody and Sherman through history. and just
Ooh.
have him, like, each scene is like 10-15 minutes, and they're like, man, they really hate that guy, and they're like, yeah, that's Caesar, man, he had it coming. Like just like you just like,
Oh
there
yeah,
we
that'd be
go.
great.
Like,
Or even as like a series, like
almost like
in his own TV series.
history of
Yeah.
the world or kind of thing.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I-
Well,
I-
nobody, him being named Nobody was a reference to the Odyssey. So
Yeah.
maybe when we see the Odyssey, maybe he'll show up in that. That would be great.
Wow,
That'll be the
that
least
horse is
controversial
really
thing
big.
about that movie.
Yeah. Gary Farmer in there. All
Man,
right.
I hope
So
they don't put
list-worthy.
people in that horse and put it in that place. That'd be bad. What did you say?
Yeah.
Like,
How many people can you fit in a horse? Anyway,
you were like,
is the Odyssey a Western? We'll get into that. There's a horse on film.
there's a horse on. Oh my god.
It's true. Okay. List-worthy. I think we both said, or we all said, we gave us pretty good ratings. But Brandon, could you see a world where this isn't on the list?
I think there are better representatives of acid westerns or weird westerns. I mean, even talking about Rudy Wurlitzer being like an unofficial inspiration for this, his movie Walker from 1987. I don't actually know if it's on the list, but
It's not. It actually
no?
came up last episode because
Yeah.
it's set in Nicaragua, and we were talking about South American westerns on the Settlers episode. So yeah, that's funny that you mentioned Walker. I said it last episode, but my review was just, this shit's crazy. Like,
yeah, like
it's,
that's a crazy western. Like
Yeah.
this one, it has its weirdness as like a tone poem and some of the formal choices of it, but like the story itself in some ways to me is fairly straightforward, and I don't think it's as subversive to the Western mythology as maybe Jarmusch was going for, just in my opinion. So yeah, I think there's better representatives of the weird Western or the acid Western that we could put in its place.
Yeah, I thought of a couple. There's a weird one that I've yet to finish. I've started it and I haven't finished. It has Robert Pattinson. It's called Damsel. Have you guys seen Damsel?
I haven't even heard
No.
of that.
I think I saw the poster.
Yeah, it's a weird one. And I made it about 20 minutes in, and then no fault of the movie, I had to turn it off, and I've never gone back. But
That's the fault of the movie.
yeah, that I really have been meaning to dig into it because it is kind of weird, and I do love a weird one. One that isn't weird, but maybe would be a fringe pick to call a Western, would be The Straight Story, David Lynch.
I haven't seen it.
I still haven't seen it, which is
Yeah.
shameful.
Oh.
That's the Lynch one I haven't seen.
I'm absolutely shocked by that. It has
Yeah.
one of my favorite opening credit moments because it says Walt Disney presents a film by David Lynch, and
Oh, cool.
there's something so perfect about that. It's on Disney Plus. I'm
Is it?
almost 100%.
Oh, okay, good. Because I've been genuinely looking for it for years, and it hasn't had very good streaming availability. And
No,
if
every
I'm-
once in a while.
if I'm
every
wrong,
once in a
I'm
while,
wrong.
get it right. So
Yeah, it's a very, I mean, it had that independent spirit. It made kind of the Oscar buzz, and Richard Farnsworth is incredible. There's the story seems simple enough. This elderly man wants to go see his sick brother. He's hoping to get there before he passes away, but he doesn't have his driver's license anymore, and so he decides to drive his lawnmower across a few states to go see him. And it's based on a true story. It's an absolutely true story, and it's a very, very interesting movie. There's another movie called Lucky with Harry Dean Stanton, and it's directed by John Carroll Lynch, and stars David Lynch in a cameo, in a Jarmuschian cameo role. It's interesting because it almost could unofficially play as the other side of the straight story, like the brother that you either get to meet or don't get to meet. No spoilers. But if you watch a straight story and picture it as one side of the story, and then watch Lucky and picture it as the other side of the story, it's, I mean, not perfect, but it's kind of a funny way to look at it. The only other one I really thought of, other than I'm glad you brought up Walker, Ride into the Whirlwind, which is Monty Hellman. The other Monty Hellman from that year, The Shooting, is on this list already. So I'm sure that was their Sophie's Choice, where they, do we go with this one or that one? And they were shot at the same time on the same budget with the same cast. Whirlwind's a little bit stranger. So I could see it kind of slotting in there if you, like you say, if you wanted a weird Western. Other than that, I guess maybe the one that would count as a strange Western for the time was One-Eyed Jacks with Brando.
As the director, so he hated himself on that one.
He was real self-loathing. And one that I've been kind of trying to shoehorn in a conversation about at some point. I think it's a good one, and one that I wouldn't overlook as a top 100. So there's kind of a few kind of in the ballpark. What about? Can you guys think of another movie where Johnny Depp plays a character that is maybe of native inspiration, has some of those native
Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, okay. So when I first before I watched this movie, and I didn't connect Gary Farmer's face and name together, and I'm seeing this Native American named Nobody, and I'm thinking that it's Johnny Depp. I was terrified that he was going to Tonto this.
Yeah.
Oh my
god!
You
need a little more time to get there. You
need a little more time.
To do at least. I think he did a Pirates movie first and just brought that character over. Like it's
very much so. I mean, Gore Verbinski directed both of them, and I saw an interview. Of course, we're talking about the Lone Ranger, the big Disney. It was considered a flop. Johnny Depp played Tonto. It was very controversial. Still is. I saw an interview where they kind of were talking about the success of Pirates being so undeniable that even when they first said we're doing a Lone Ranger reboot and Johnny Depp is involved, that was enough for the banks to just back up trucks of money.
Yeah.
And I see where their head was to a certain extent. The issue comes when he started, claiming that he had Native American roots, and that sort of fell apart. And
that feels like a PR thing to be like, let's just get ahead of this or something.
Yeah, and it was right in a pocket of time where people were finally starting to make good decisions on that kind of stuff, and there was guys like Adam Beach and
Dark Winds.
That's the guy I'm thinking of. But
I know exactly what Graham Greene was always Graham Greene, but
anyway, there was a abundance of successful, young, interesting, bankable Native actors that were interested in what could have been the biggest role of their life, and they gave it to Johnny Depp, and it never really worked. And now that said, I do really enjoy that movie. It is a fun, exciting, well-made, interestingly structured adventure Western.
Gore Verbinski can direct an action sequence like nobody's business. But now that you mention it, like you think, okay, they went with Johnny Depp for Tonto because they're trying to protect their investment or whatever, and they don't trust any of these indigenous actors to carry it. But then they went with kind of an unknown with Armie Hammer. But
he was coming off.
They could have done a bigger star for the Lone Ranger and done a more unknown for Tonto.
But he was at the time he was talking about being Batman in George Miller's Justice League. So like he was riding high there for a while. Social Network hadn't come along yet, but
he was close to.
I could be wrong, but I feel like I knew him from Social Network when he was cast in that.
I
Is
don't
that
know the
not-
time
I
frame.
thought
That
so
could be it
too. I did think so too. I thought that was like his next thing, but
Yes. Yeah.
The
I feel
other-
like the only way I knew who he was that he played the role in Social Network. So.
Speaking of Gore Verbinski, if we may, he's releasing his first film in 10 years. Like it's after A Cure for Wellness, which I like, by the way.
Pirates 8. No.
Sorry?
What is it?
No.
What is
Don't Worry, Be Happy, Don't Die.
Sam Rockwell's in it. That's
Sam
all.
Rockwell film?
I think a guy shows up and he claims to be from the future and he says, "You have to do what I say or you're all gonna die" or something. And then he's a crazy guy.
It just looks crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But it looks fun.
Okay. I mean, he does, like we said, he makes fun movies. And that sometimes that's what you're looking for. And I did enjoy the structure, like the screenplay structure of The Lone Ranger, because it was all a story that Tonto was telling. Mm-hmm. So at that point, it could be about anything, like it really, could have gone in any direction because it was as true as you wanted it to be,
One of my favorite moments in its television is in The Office, the US version of The Office, season 7. Michael Scott, Steve Carell's character is leaving the show. And we're 7 seasons in. If you've never seen The Office, whatever. I'm not even big, but he's at the airport.
Is it on a boat? No,
he's on a boat. Yeah. He's at the airport and he's walking away. And you realize he's walking away. And then he stops and turns around. And you realize, because if you've watched the show, you just kind of get used to the format. He comes and he gives back the mic and goes, "Hey, when this airs, let me know." And the film crew's not allowed to go past the security, hence why they're not following him. But like you're 7 seasons in and you've kind of forgotten the premise at this point that this is a
documentary crew. Yeah.
Back. And I love when stuff does that. And so your Tonto story could have been, you could have went anywhere. And then, you zoom out or whatever, you fade to the campfire. Is like, well, at least that's the way I saw it.
Yeah. Anyway, it's one of those ones that is never going to make a list ever again. And now Armie Hammer is a controversial character as well.
He's trying to come back too, though.
They really struck out, on the casting again.
They really did.
They really did. Like it's so unfortunate because will we ever see another Lone Ranger reboot? And if we did, it would never be that fun again. I think you're going to get the gritty, maybe a gritty reboot or some kind of,
it'll be animated.
Yeah, some kind of other version of the Lone Ranger, which then leads me to the conversation of, is there a version of the Lone Ranger that belongs on this list? Because the 80s movie was kind of panned, and I think maybe it was more of a TV franchise than it was a film franchise.
I always saw it as kind of like Lassie, where it's just like very formal. You're tuning in knowing everything's going to be fine. Like it's just feel good cinema or whatever, right? I don't want to be challenged. I just want to, Dudley Do Right, go.
I did love the Filmation cartoon when I was a kid. I still have my Tonto and I have Tonto and Lone Ranger and both their horses. I still have the figures from, I think that's cool. The stamp on the butt is like 1979. So wow. It's amazing that they've lasted and because they still had like metal pins through the joints and stuff like that. Oh, wow. Yeah, they're old enough.
Doesn't Lone Ranger go back to like radio days, like before?
Oh yeah,
it goes back before that even.
Yeah, right.
Novels and yeah.
What really surprised me when they brought that Lone Ranger movie out is it was just a few years earlier that they did the Green Hornet, and it had a very similar tone to it. It was a little goofier, a little funnier, and it failed miserably.
Yeah, that's because Seth Rogen isn't an action star by any means.
No, exactly. And they didn't try to make him an action star. Yeah. But it was just they tried to go with a similar tone with the Lone Ranger, and I'm surprised at that, just given how badly such a similar and actually connected character did just a few years earlier.
Stop and think about it. It's Disney. If Disney's willing to lose all the money on episode 8, then and then we still got.
And there's our drink for Star Wars.
Yeah, we did
Like-
it. We're like,
I've been trying to literally figure out how to get it in there. I was going to just
never
Star Wars, but like
it's never that hard for us to squeeze Star Wars into something.
nothing but Star Wars. But so if Disney wants to put out bad films like Episode 8 and then follow it up with somewhat okay,
Maybe they'll go back. I remember, when they had a video game called Disney Infinity, which was one of those things where you had to buy the little figures and put the figures on the pad, and then you could play as those figures. And my son had Lone Ranger and Tonto that came as a little set with a little playset crystal piece, and you could go into the old west town, and the train was going around, and you rode the horses and shot the little cork guns, and he played that for hours and hours and hours and hours. I bet he put more hours into that game than anybody put into, or than the whole world put into watching the movie. It could have turned into, and there's a big section of Disneyland that is Frontierland. And so it could have turned into a big deal. And now I think a lot of Frontierland is getting kind of turned into the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Actually, I heard they are chasing the other success story. John Carter is how they're going to change that.
John Carter from Mars, which again, underrated movie.
Underrated movie.
Actually, I've never seen it. So
it's full of good ideas. It I would put it in a double feature with Fifth Element. Which says a lot. Or Fifth Element, or another double feature would be Galaxy Quest.
Oh, I like Galaxy Quest.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I can see Fifth Element.
Yeah, Phil. Or if you wanted to really have a bad night, you could go John Carter and then Valerian.
I like
that's way too much Luc Besson. John Carter, not Fifth Element, but yes.
Fifth Element.
But it does kind of fit that Luc Besson kind of. Sometimes movies have too many good ideas in them. And
I have a very limited Luc Besson tolerance. I
love how no one has ever said too many good ideas in a film and John Carter from Mars in the same sentence.
Well, that's just it. It suffered from a lot of things, and
suffered from not being a TV series.
Probably. That's well, like when you look at Zack Snyder's Justice League, I actually prefer it as the 4-part one, and so maybe it shouldn't have been a movie. We are way off topic. I think we talked about more about everything else except because we're actually almost. I bet you 2/3 of this has been about just films.
And before we went to recording, we literally were talking about we how much we enjoy being on topic.
The funny thing is this is going to be my favorite part of this episode. Is just on. Yeah.
What I said, in all fairness, was the quicker we get into it, the more we have time to kind of expand on the ideas in the movie, and
so people have had many opportunities.
All right,
and we're actually doing pretty good for time. So, but with that said, as Dave would say on every episode of Happiness Patrol, with that said, Dave, where can we find you in this world?
You can find me all over the YouTubes. You can find me Sundays on Spill the Geek Tea at Spill the Geek T1. Tuesdays, talking Doctor Who on The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. First Thursday of every month, along with Scott and Cameron, on Happiness Patrol, youtube.com/@Happiness Patrol Show. And in between all of that, you can find me on my own channel, youtube.com/TheRatHole, DOTCA. That's therathole.ca, but YouTube does not like URLs in their URLs. If you also want, you can also find my game reviews at therathole.ca. That is the actual website. And Scott, where can we find you?
Breakfast Scotch National every week. Actually, 5 days a week now. I try to take the news, which is crazy, and try to make as much sense of it as possible in a somewhat humorous way. Between that, where I don't know if you can tell, it's a little changey colors because we're getting ready to shoot the first episode of the Pod and Pixel game show. That should be interesting. What else do I got going? I got a little bit of everything. Several fingers and several pies. So looking forward to Happiness Patrol, as Dave put out as well. Now, I think it goes around in circles like the Brady Bunch. So I'm guessing, Brandon, where do we find you?
Well, this is my Letterboxd right here. I don't write any reviews, but I log movies that I watch. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at the same handle, but I don't write anything on them either. So I save it all for you guys. And now throwing it to Cam.
Yeah, and I think you can start telling people I'm from Happiness, or I'm from Horses on Film, because this is your 3rd episode. I think once we get to 100, you'll probably have a good dozen in the
I hope so.
Yeah. So I'm Cameron. You can find me. I'm on Letterboxd at Cameron Chapman, reviewing Star Wars, reviewing movies over and over. And you can go back and see how many times I've watched Patterson and be a little bit. It's a little embarrassing because it is a frequent watch. But this is Horses on Film. We've got a letterbox for Horses on Film. We're putting lists up. We're starting to throw some bonus episodes in there, so look for those on Instagram. Horses on Film podcast. That's where you're going to watch or you're going to see the little intro videos that I do if you're only listening to this and not watching on YouTube. YouTube is where you'd find us normally. At Horses on Film on YouTube, and there's now 16 episodes for you to catch up on if you're just finding us now. So that's kind of exciting, and you could always email us at horsesonfilm@gmail.com. Let us know what's your favorite Western, and let us know what your purgatory / theories are on Dead Man, because I've heard a lot of very detailed, interesting levels that dig way, way deeper than my simple, surfacely, kind of interpretation of it. But it's one of those movies that kind of gets you thinking about possibilities and allegories and metaphors and kind of how deep some of these scripts can go in a fun way. So that's great. So this is episode 16, episode 17 coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to number 73 on the list, which is 1929's Hell's Heroes, directed by William Wyler, stars Charles Bickford, Raymond Hatton, Fred Kohler. 68 minutes. Gotta love that. It's streaming free on YouTube. Gotta love that. And it has sound. There is a silent version of it. When I first read about it, I assumed it was a silent film. There is a silent version, but the version on YouTube is the sound version. And
so we are doing the sound one.
Yes, we're doing the sound one, and it was Wyler's first talkie, as they say.
Talkie. Yeah.
And like I've said a couple times, it was then remade as Three Godfathers, Tokyo Godfathers, Three Men and a Baby. It's one of these very, very well tread storylines. Wow. So it's kind of exciting in that way. So
if Aaron Sorkin wrote it, it would be a walkie-talkie.
Well, with that, I will say over and out. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Brandon, for coming again. This is great. I'm glad you're you're like the fifth Beatle, as they say.
I'm happy to be Pete Best here.
George Martin.
Happy to be the best of the group. So
yeah.
George Martin was like better than Ringo.
George Martin with that. Yeah.
What they call it, the 11th man or whatever. Yeah. In sports, but yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dave and Scott, and anyone who's even thinking about watching this and commenting and following on Letterboxd. It's so great. I can't even express how much I appreciate it, and how the idea that there's even a community of people watching Westerns, talking about Westerns, thinking about them. A friend of mine said today that he watched a few episodes of this and then dug out an old Western script that he hadn't worked on in years and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take a look at this script and see if I can." Yeah. So that little things like that, it just kind of like it's really cool. It's rad. So thank you, everybody. And one last person to thank is, of course, Brett Alec Bailey, who wrote our beautiful theme song. And we'll put that on and say goodnight. And thank you guys so much. We'll talk soon.